Hey everybody, Steve-O here. Today I'm going to go over how to install Kali Linux. We're going to look at how this works on Virtualbox, but the same process would need to be done from a physical point of view. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to name our machine and use Ubuntu 64 as the OS. Give it 1500 megabytes of RAM or 1.5 gigs. Create a new disk, dynamically allocated, and I'm going to give it 15 gigabytes. 8 is too small of an amount, so you'll need to increase that, otherwise the install will fail. So at this point, we're going to tell it that I want to use the Kali 2017 1 distro. Tell it to start. And I'm going to do the install. You could do a graphic install. I prefer to do the GUI or the 2E install, the console install. Just a preference of mine. Whatever works for you. Okay, now we're going to select our language, our locale, and our key maps. And from a default perspective, it all works out depending on what country you're in and what keyword you're using. Okay, we're going to call it Steve-O Fu Kali. And domain name, local is fine. This really doesn't matter unless you're using it to do specific things, but we're going to be using it as a client mostly, so you just hit continue there. We're going to set a super secret password. 1, 2, 3, 4. And my time zone is Pacific. Now, you can go with different options here. If you're going to use this on a laptop and you're going to store any information that you actually want to keep secure, I would recommend doing the entire disk in encrypted LVM. That being said, if you have a large hard disk, this is going to take a very long time because initially it's going to overwrite your disk with random data, and the larger the disk, the more time this is going to take. We don't want to do that. We're just going to do a very basic install because I'm setting this up on a VM, but do whatever you would like to do, including you could set it up so to break up partitioning, your home directory, var, temp, so on and so forth, but just go ahead and use the entire disk. Here's where it says to break up the partitioning. Now the reason for this is there are security implications and system stability implications to separating your partitions out, and generally it's more secure, but can potentially be more of a pain in the butt depending on what your system usage is if you do this. But since this is kind of a throwaway system and we're going to be using it for demo purposes, there's really no reason to do this. So we're just going to go ahead and throw everything on the disk. And we're going to finish up, and we're going to write the changes. And it's going to go through its process. I'm not going to bore you with the details here, so it's going to go do its thing, and I will restart this once it does. All right, So getting back to it, we're going to, it's finished doing its install, and we're going to configure the packet manager, and it's asking if we want to use a network mirror. Generally, if you want to keep your system updated, it's probably a good idea to do that. So we're going to select yes, and we don't have a proxy that we're going through. If you do, you would probably know it, otherwise you'd have trouble getting to the internet. So generally, you're probably going to leave this blank, and it's going to do its stuff. This may take just a couple seconds. All right, I'm going to stop this and let this finish up, and then I will be back. All right, now it looks like it's done its thing after pulling that initial mirror from the internet, and it's asking me if we want to install the grub bootloader to the master boot record. 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, the answer to this is going to be yes, unless you're dual booting your system, which you may want to do, but this isn't the tutorial for that, so we're just going to select yes. And we're going to select the dev SDA, which is what we're installing it to. Now, after it selects some of the sources from the internet, it disabled the CD. And also there may be a piece in here where it asks you specifically if you're on a different connection, if you want to use your wireless or whatnot. And those network configuration options are pretty simple in regard to what you do. But anyway, let's go ahead and tell it we want to continue. So we're going to reboot and press continue. It's going to do some cleanup stuff. Let's see, the disk is kind of working down here. Come on. All right, I'm going to pause this for just a second. It looks like it has finished up and it immediately rebooted, and it's going to reboot into its regular OS at this point, so it's not going to go back to the CD. Okay, initially what we're going to do is we're going to type in our root username and password. Now, if you're going to use this as your daily driver, or if you're going to use this in any real capacity, what I would recommend doing first is setting yourself up with a regular username. So I do a user add m steveokfu, for example, and then do password steveokfu. Excuse me. All right. Pass wd steveokfu, and type in your super secret password. And now you can, sorry, this is force a habit. I'm going to log out. Oh, I almost forgot. So if I do that, what I'm going to want to do is either do a visudo and add myself to this manually. But instead of that, I'm going to add myself to the sudo group. Now you can do this one or two ways. I usually just edit Etsy group directly, and I'll also do a su steveokfu just to make sure that I can log in and do, well, actually sudo would be kind of useless here. So I'm going to log off, log back in as my regular user and make sure I have root access. So go here and tell it to actually switch user. Log in as another user and Steve OK Foo. Super secret password. A lot of times the desktop takes a little while to initialize. And then let's make sure we can get root access. So sudo-i and our super secret password. There we go. So now when we surf the internet and whatnot, we're not doing it as root. I would also recommend initially doing an apt update. So apt update is going to download some of the latest stuff from the mirrors and do a apt dist upgrade. Now, your mileage may vary with this, but it's probably a good idea if you're going to be using it in any type of working capacity to get the latest software, and that's what this is going to do. And it's going to go through and it's going to download a bunch of stuff, and we'll go ahead and do that, but I'm not going to bore you with the details. Once this finishes, reboot, and you can pretty much use this as a regular desktop. Customize it, install your own window manager, what have you. But that is the short and skinny of it. So thank you for watching. And if you like this video, please subscribe. And I will see you on the next episode.